2026 ushers in a new era of GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. Gone are the two 90-minute races across a weekend, replaced by a single 3-hour endurance contest. New teams and drivers have joined the series regulars for the start of a new chapter for SRO America here at Sonoma Raceway, where we are about to go qualifying for the first time in the new year. Hello and welcome. It is a pleasure to have your company. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish joins me once again, and down in the pit lane, it is Amanda Busick, enjoying the beautiful weather here in Northern California, 64 degrees Fahrenheit, track temperature identical as the sun has started to come up, and with that, the track temps should climb throughout the course of the day. A little bit of humidity in the air, but by and large, a very pleasant week here in Northern California, and the teams have certainly been enjoying the chance to get some time on the track in preparation for this qualifying session with the new race format. That means a new qualifying format as well, which we'll talk about here in just a few moments. But we mentioned that Amanda Busick is patrolling the pits for us, and a chance to hear from her for the first time in 2026.
Good morning, Ryan. Yeah, it is a beautiful morning here at Sonoma Raceway. It feels like race day today as we kick off this new format. You talk about our returning faces, new faces, and there's also some new challenges for some of those returning faces. Here you're taking a look at that ProAm champion from last year stepping up into the pro category. And Robbie, we've talked about the challenges that'll face this year, and that guy kicks it off right there. What's the secret for you guys this year of getting Justin up to speed?
Just building on where we've been the last 2 years. Justin's made so much progress, and yeah, it's going to be a new challenge up to pro class, and no better way to start off than with a new race format. So we'll see how it goes here, 2 qualifyings and then the big race later, so looking forward to it.
On that, you talk about the new race format, the 3-hour race that we'll see all season long. How do you guys break that down here this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's going to be new for everybody. Luckily, the regulations are pretty much the same in terms of rules and things like that, and it's sort of similar to Indy 8-hour, so we all know how to do it. It's just going to be about adapting to the situations and trying to come up with a good strategy, but I think we're ready for it, and see how we go.
Good luck today.
Thanks.
Championships in the past 2 seasons for Robbie Foley and Justin Rothberg in the Pro-Am class, but gone is Justin's bronze derogation. He has to race with his true FIA driver grading this year as a silver. That means a promotion to the pro class and a whole new challenge for that pairing and that team.
Yeah, very much so, and I think that pro class is going to be really interesting this year. We've got a bundle of manufacturers involved in the championship as a whole, but in the pro class, 5 entries with 5 different manufacturers represented in that, so it's going to be really fascinating to see how that shakes out during the course of this championship season.
We've talked about the new race format, but qualifying has gone through a little tweak as well. Previously, there were 2 qualifying sessions, so each driver had a say, setting the grid for each of the 2 races. Of course, with the 1 race now, we'll still have 2 qualifying sessions, and both drivers still have a part to play. It's an aggregated time between the 2 drivers across the 2 sessions.
And there's also a rule in place for the Pro-Am entries. The AM driver has to do qualifying 1 and start the race, and then the faster driver, typically the pro driver, would do qualifying 2 here. In both AM and Pro, you can choose which way you want to lay that out. So last year was very popular to do that reverse strategy with a couple of the groups having success with that. Kind of boxed in a little bit more with the regulations this year. We'll dig into that once we get to race time, but nonetheless, going to be interesting to see if anyone finds a little twist that someone hasn't thought of at this point in the championship year, with the first race still not to get going.
There have been a lot of smart strategists up and down this pit lane all week long, going through different scenarios, thinking through the different permutations, trying to come up with the best way to approach these new formats. And it starts right here with qualifying. 2 15-minute sessions. Drivers making their way out onto the track right now. As we talked about, some returning stalwarts like Turner, who we heard from a moment ago. GMG, JMF is back, but also some new teams, maybe most notably this influx of Porsches, primarily from the Kelly Moss and the Riley stables.
Yeah, there's a bundle of those cars. I mean, Porsche's kind of incredible. They got 7 Porsches in the field here, so we'll see how that shakes out. And it's a new Porsche. It's got that Evo, and it's been very fast here this weekend at Sonoma. BMW seems to be a little bit on the back foot. Mercedes have topped the times a few times this weekend. So, but this is go time. This is when everyone's going to put their cards on the table, and we'll see who has what.
Couple onboard looks for you that we'll have throughout the course of the weekend. Here's one of the newcomers. This is Wright Motorsports. returning to the championship in a full-time capacity. They do so with Therese Lalou, a graduate of Porsche Single Make Racing from Porsche Sprint Challenge, teamed up with longtime co-driver and coach Thomas Merrill. A welcome addition and one of many brightly colored Porsches here in the SRO America paddock this year. AF Corsa, we've seen them in the past, but they're here with a pro entry for the first time. Matias Perez-Companc from a famed Argentinian racing lineage, joined by Frederick Schandorf, very fast Danish driver who has impressed throughout the weekend so far.
Yeah, I think looking at that on paper, Schandorf is an absolute monster behind the wheel of a GT3 machine. I think if Companc can get the job done and kind of set the table with that starting driver role, they could really have a lot of success this year with that Ferrari.
First penalty of the new season, and it's handed down to Todd Coleman, the Archangel Motorsports McLaren, speeding in the pit lane. That is a stop-and-go penalty, not the end of the world here at Sonoma. It's a relatively quick lap relative to a place like VIR or to Road America, but still 15 minutes in the session. You don't have many opportunities to get that quick lap laid down.
Yeah, I would think that's more of a procedural thing where he leapt out of his pit box and didn't realize he hadn't engaged the pit lane speed limiter and just kind of flared over the top of that. That would be my first guess anyway, but not an ideal start to a much anticipated first qualifying session of the season.
Looks like Mads Siljehaug and Nikolai Elganian also picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That one will just be a drive-through. It's great to have Elganian and Siljehaug back in the paddock. First time racing at the GT3 level. Not entirely sure just how many races Nikolai will get to, but the Chicago Performance and Tuning Company operation running one of the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo 2s here this weekend. That car sounds fantastic. We know there's been a new addition to the GT3 ranks from Lamborghini this year, but this Lamborghini Huracan, tried and true, and a great addition to this grid. New team and new drivers to GT World Challenge America.
Yeah, we just saw a glimpse. We see the cars serving those penalties if they stop and go for this 69, a drive-through for this Lamborghini number 64. But saw that glimpse of the 27 machine of Jason Daskelos, and he can't take the smile off his face this weekend, making the switch to JMF, and he just said, wow, the car just feels so good. I got a great teammate that we'll discuss when he gets behind the wheel in session 2 here, but going to be really curious to see what Jason can do. The last time we saw him drive was when he put in that mega stint, race 2 at Barber, when he held off Philip Ellis for about 20 minutes there and ended up with a podium finish, but didn't see him at Indy, but he's regrouped over the off-season, come back, made the arrangement with JMF. They now switched to a 2-car operation, one in Pro, one in Pro-Am. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Jason can do this year with that machine.
He is too, that's for sure. You talk to him and he is full of optimism about this new year. Scored 2 podiums last year as a rookie in the championship alongside another rookie. He brings a new rookie in this year. You mentioned Lorcan Hannafin, his co-driver for 2026, who will introduce more fully in the second leg of this qualifying here this morning, but certainly a team to keep an eye on. New team to the championship, McCann Racing. A couple of exciting newcomers, Michael McCann Jr., and he'll be teamed up with Zach Vanier, Canadian driver, who we'll see in the second session. And right now, Michael McCann on a decent lap, starting to see some times pop up on timing and scoring, and it's the birthday boy, Brayton Williams, with the quick time here in the early going, although just now supplanted by McCann at a 1:47.143. Still a long way to go, though, Cal, to get to the lap times we expect to see contending for pole position.
Yeah, fastest time on the weekend is a 1:33.2, so even the AM drivers you'd expect to be down with these ideal conditions here this morning in the 34-35 second, 1:34-35 second bracket, that is.
Welcome back to the RS1 team. They've become a fixture in GT World Challenge America, bringing their Porsche 911 GT3R. That's the Evo version of the car. Everybody trying to find space on the racetrack to put in a flying lap. Here's Turner. We heard from Robbie Foley earlier. This is Justin Rothberg, 2-time champ in the Pro-Am ranks, and Mackay Stevens, winner here last year. It was his GT3 debut, let's remember. Really remarkable result, and he's back for another go-round with JMF.
Yeah, and these guys could be the team to beat, the two mix, Carl Grenier and Stevens here behind the wheel doing the opening chore, if we could call it that, just kind of getting out of the way, letting someone up behind him. So just trying to prep the tires a little bit here, just gradually build that pressure and energy into that Pirelli P0, and then you want to find a clean lap. We're already down to under 9 minutes to go in this session, so you can't afford to get it wrong. You really want to hit the peak of that tire, and that's all kind of preempted by what your starting pressure is on pit lane. There is a minimum tire pressure that has to be there all of the time, because it's kind of a random check. So even if it's sitting on pit lane, if it's on the car, it needs to be up to that minimum pressure.
Highly anticipated debut in the pro ranks for Dollarhide Racing. Alex Sedgwick comes over to join the team. Drove for RS1 a year ago, finished third in the pro class with a couple of wins, and he's joined, it's weird to call him a veteran at this stage. I still think of him as a young guy, but Cameron Lawrence comes over to anchor that lineup. Both new to the Mustang platform, but they've been really fast so far in testing this week.
Yeah, I also want to point out where timing and scoring is set up. That first sector begins on the exit of turn 10, so you may see drivers really slow down in that chicane right here, turn 9, because it's essentially on the exit here that you want the acceleration run to start the lap. So as you come through this little kink right about here is where that timing line is to set up the start of a flying lap.
That looks like exactly what Justin Rothberg was doing. He jumps to the top of timing and scoring halfway through this session. Brayton Williams, though, supplants him at the top at a 1:36.508. Welcome back, TR3, team based out of Florida. We've seen them running Mercedes here in the past, and it's an exciting lineup. Williams, a rookie to GT3 Racing, and he brings along Will Bamber as his co-driver in 2026.
Let's do it here. Behind the Sparkle Farts BMW. I'll give Bill Riley some grief about that, running a pink race car.
Yes, some things don't rest easily in the mind. You have to come to terms with that, but that's a livery that Slade has carried on his race cars in a couple championships over the years for quite some time now. Designed in deference to his daughter many years ago. And that will be popular at the racetrack all year long with the pink unicorn and all the sparkles on it. And you mentioned the name of the unicorn, Sparkle Farts. Words I never thought I would say on television, but here we are.
Sedgwick on a pretty good lap. This Ford has had good pace here this weekend, been towards the top of the timesheets. He comes across the line and sets a new benchmark at 1:35.313.
Deal came together pretty late for Alex to be in for the season this year, but he's loving the opportunity for the second straight year to race in the pro class here in GT World Challenge America. Here comes Daskalos down in 10th, at least for the moment, as Martinez jumps to P2 just a few moments ago. Trips the timing beacon, does Daskalos, and he's third quickest, second in class.
Car looks really nicely balanced. Doesn't look like he's fighting it as he'll start to push now. I think the tires are really starting to get into their sweet spot. This is not ideal for Mackay here. He's having to deal with some traffic there through turn 7.
I think that was Therese Laloux, and that did cost Mackay. He was in really good shape through sector 1, but had to back out of it, as you saw there, dealing with the traffic. So still all the way down in 13th. At this early stage. Alex Sedgwick in the Mustang, though, really starting to push. Just did the best first sector of anyone so far, and we are inching closer to times that we think could contend for a good starting position.
Kai to the top, 35.0, but Sedgwick is on a bit of a flyer here. Solid, almost 4/10 up in the first sector alone, and a really nice middle sector as well, 6/10 up. Fighting the car there, and he is really starting to push. You could see him kind of catch the car on entry here. This is where it'll click to the next lap. This is where the timing line is. And there you see it straight to the top. This is kind of the range that we expected to be in, 33s for the faster drivers in this session. Maybe we'll see some 32s before the check-in.
Alex had done minimal testing in the Evo version of this Mustang prior to showing up here at Sonoma. In fact, they really didn't do much testing in the older version either. Didn't want to develop any bad habits that might not carry over from one car to the next. But that said, it's been a quick study. Right now the quickest as Daskalos comes across. 4th fastest overall, 2nd in class.
Yeah, just a 10th off Martinez, who has the Pro-Am fast time at the moment. Got to be thinking that Mackay's got to start to put together a lap here. He's just laid down the purple first sector, but he's only about half a tenth up on Sedgwick, so it's going to be a close battle between that JMF Mercedes potentially and the Ford for the fast time of this session.
Speaking of JMF, on board with Mackay Stevens, this is a lap that could supplant Alex Sedgwick at the top if he can keep it nice and tidy through the chicane. Now this right-handed bend toward the timing beacon, and he does. A 1:33.637, 2/10 to the good.
Yeah, but Sedgwick now laid down a new fast first sector as well, so it's nip and tuck between these two drivers. They seem to be the two that are challenging for fast time of this session.
Didn't have a great middle sector, though. We'll have time for a couple more flying laps if there's still life in the Pirelli P0s. Clawed back a little closer there through the final sector, but still finds himself on the wrong end of the margin by about 2/10 of a second. New number 3 on timing and scoring, and that is the young Argentinian, Matías Pérez-Companc.
Yeah, Sedgwick was 1/10 down on his previous best, so yeah, he lost a little bit in that middle sector. Let's see if he can tidy that up, or whether the tires already kind of peaked a little bit with their pressure. If they went a little aggressive on the starting pressures, maybe they can't get that back. Don't have a lot of time to kind of cool them down. He could maybe do one cool down lap and then fire it again. Really nice lap by Pérez-Companc, and as I said, that could really set the table nicely for Schandorf if Perez can do his job.
Now it's the Chicago Performance and Tuning Lamborghini Huracan, Nikolai Elganian. Bubbly personality, always happy when you bump into him, just loves being at the racetrack. This is a big step for him, for the team. Liqui Moly sponsorship on the side of that car. Pro-Am runner, of course, and goes to the top in the class by just 69 thousandths of a second.
Just come up with a new nickname for him. We say he looks like Danny Ricciardo. Maybe we call him Danny Nick. What do you think?
I like it. Sounds good. And he's got a really talented co-driver. Matt Siljehaug has been quick in GT4 for many, many years. I'm super excited to see what he can do here in GT3 this year.
Yeah, he could really make a statement here this year. Looking forward to this GT3 opportunity. Stalwart of GT4 over the last few years.
This is McCann Racing. A name not unfamiliar to this paddock, going back to the World Challenge days. Michael's father, a competitor here in years past. But a welcome to them, at least in this guise of McCann Racing. Justin Rothberg, first time qualifying as a pro, sits 7th overall. That's 5th out of the 5 pro-entered cars here this weekend. Sedgwick has decided he could do no better than the time he's already posted. His car is in the pit lane, 2/10 of a second shy of the quick time set by Mackay Stevens.
Yeah, I got a feeling they went a little aggressive with those starting tire pressures, and he got up to speed a little quicker than Mackay did, but then suddenly you peak and there's nothing you can do. You can come into pit lane and even throw another set of tires at it, and you expect them to do that for the second qualifying drive. But you can run 2 sets in the same segment of qualifying if you choose to do so. It's 4 sets of tires. There's 6 sets for the weekend, but the 4 sets essentially starts at the official practice session. Testing and stuff does not.
On-board look. High speed, high commitment section here. This is on board with Todd Coleman in the McLaren.
145 as he hits the brake pedal there to slow it down, about 50 miles an hour minimum speed through that tight corner, and this about right there where that timing is.
New pole, provisional pole sitter in the Pro-Am class. Todd Coleman overcoming that speeding penalty early in the session, puts down a great lap ahead of Elganian, who is second quickest in Pro-Am, and JP Martinez, welcome back to him. He's 3rd in the Pro-Am ranks and ahead of one of the Pro Class cars. This is that Pro Class car. Last flying lap here for Rothberg. Currently 8th overall. Can he improve? No. He'll do no better than 8th overall and 5th in class.
It's going to give Robbie Foley a lot of work to do in the combined times. Right now there's 3 Pro-Am entries ahead of Rothberg. So it means that Foley's got to really get a big delta between himself and guys like Aaron Thielitz, Matt Siljehaug, and Jan Halen. So that's a big task for Robbie if he's going to get that car pushed further up the overall grid.
Strong debut qualifying in GT3 for Brayton Williams, who again celebrates his birthday today. What's that car? Is that fifth in class?
And it's a different dynamic for this first driver. Do you know what I mean? It's not, okay, you're on the pole. It's like you want to go as fast as you can to set the table for that next driver because it's combined. So it's not like, okay, you're good by a couple of tenths, just cool it off, save the tires. No, you want to try and push if you got a little bit more left there to find it and set up the second driver so he doesn't have as much work to do for that combined or average, however you want to look at it.
And Jay Schreibman, haven't talked yet about our AM class runner, expecting an AM class competitor for AF Corsa at the next round of the championship. But Jay doesn't have the happiest memories of this place. I think he's gritting his teeth just trying to get through the weekend.
Yeah, he had kind of an injury that he was dealing with when he competed here last year and ended up with an issue going to the brake pedal down for that really important turn 10 hairpin and fired it off there. So that kind of gets stuck in your memory bank. So I think he just wants to get through this weekend nice and safely, score some good points, and take those forward to COTA.
Well, that was a great result for Todd Coleman in the Pro-Am class. I think he'll be very pleased with that lap. Aaron Tielitz will qualify it in a moment. But now let's hear from Mackay Stevens.
When we came into the weekend, Mackay Stevens said that he was humbly optimistic for this season, going ahead and setting up your teammate very well for this qualifying session. And Mackay, you said you had to get up on it there. How did the Mercedes come to life at the end?
She has a wonderful personality. It's just a privilege to be able to have that relationship with her, but it's all due credit to the mentorship that I have here with JMF Motorsports, and Mick is my teammate, so it's a testament to the team effort.
How would you describe that personality?
Oh boy, that's a good one. You got to be careful with the words, but I would say a fiery spirit. Yeah, a fiery spirit for sure.
We'll see how that personality carries over for Mick Grenier, guys.
No interview like a Mackay Stevens interview.
I've had a few of those in my life.
Oh, yeah? Now, that's a question to ask you in a couple of minutes' time, once we get through qualifying 2. All right, first leg of the qualifying session is complete, and JMF Motorsports has a nice little buffer back to Dollar Height Racing, 0.2 of a second to the good. McCann Racing sits in the 3rd spot. Then it's AF Corsa, courtesy of the lap from Matias Perez Compank, first full season racing at the GT3 level. Todd Coleman, quickest of the AMs in the Pro-Am lineups, ahead of the debuting Nikolai Elgani and JP Martinez as well for RS1. They've been quick all weekend. And you find Rothberg in the 5th of the Pro Class cars. Daskalos, not sure he's going to be thrilled with that, but look how tight it is in the mid-pack. We're talking tenths, even hundredths of a second, determining multiple positions.
Yeah, he's only 0.2 off fast time, so it's still a solid run for Jason.
Brayton Williams, strong debut. Excited to see Will Bamber in that TR3 car coming up in the next leg of qualifying. And Slade Stewart, strong debut there. Derek DeBoer didn't have a chance to talk about Random Vandals in that session, down to just the one car this year, but they're really excited about this lineup. Derek having done a partial World Endurance Championship season last year, and he's joined by Hampus Eriksson, brother of IndyCar driver, Indy 500 winner Marcus Eriksson. And Paul Sparta and the Random Vandals team really excited about their prospects here for the season. A look back at the first 15 minutes of qualifying here in 2026. Lots of apprehension, of course, as a new season gets underway. Michael McCann, really the first to stretch his legs in this session, putting down some early benchmark times. Drive-through penalties for a couple of cars, pit lane speeding penalties, including for Nikolai Elgani and Todd Coleman. Interestingly enough, the two drivers that got penalties end up first and second in their class. Some debris off one of the cars. That's interesting. That might have to be dealt with after the session, because any work, impermissible work done on the cars leads to a loss of lap time set prior. But it is Mackay Stevens who had the fast lap in Q1. So, off and running here with the second qualifying session. It is driver 2 in each of these two lineups that will take the cars out on track here in just a moment. Some of the drivers coming out include Jan Halen and Robbie Foley, Will Bamber, Ryan Yardley, reigning Carrera Cup champion, who narrowly edged Riley Dickinson for the title last year. Well, Riley's here too, and he heads out on track for Q2. Who else is going out? Thomas Merrill for Wright Motorsports, Tom Sargent for GMG, Oz Negri in the M-Class entry for AF Corsa, just some of the drivers that will be taking part here in the second qualifying session. Speaking of Tom Sargent, here he is in the GMG Porsche. He'll work on getting that car up through its paces. Challenging for the Pro-Am pole. Right now, provisional pole sitter Todd Coleman is with Amanda.
And he set up his teammate Aaron Telitz for quite a run here, and there was a penalty in that session. How well do you work under pressure?
The penalty was fine because we got it early. In fact, I was like pushing to get around cars so I could get in quickly. The real pressure came when the pros were 3 laps in and still heating up tires and backing things up. But, there might have been a couple expletives over the radio at some point in time, but we got it done.
You've seen Aaron here this weekend. What are your expectations for qualifying?
I think we're going to be really good from a Pro-Am perspective. I don't expect us to be on top. The Porsches are running super strong. You always have Mercedes, which are always good. So I think we're going to be in the mix. Most importantly, at the start of the race, we wanted to be in the front of the AMs. As you know, this track's super hard to pass on. So we're exactly where we want to be.
Nice job.
Thanks.
6th in points a year ago. They bring the team back for another go-round. Coleman, Telitz, Archangel Motorsports. Never quite managed to break through and get on the podium last year, Calvin, but a good qualifying position, as he noted here at Sonoma, could put them in a position for a breakthrough result.
Yeah, it was a great job by Todd Coleman, and it's really a precursor that Aaron Telitz. We know his abilities behind the wheel of any GT3 machine, so with Todd setting a really good benchmark there, he's got a nice time to build on, and he could be a real threat here in terms of certainly the Pro-Am pole is within reach, and maybe he can climb up the order even a little bit further against the Pro cars as well.
The veteran, Oz Negri. We saw Jay Schreibman in this car in the opening segment of qualifying. Oz still as passionate about this as he's ever been. I think he took as much joy in the M-Class championship that he won, in a field of 2, admittedly, last year, as any accomplishment he's had in his career. He told us as much a couple of times throughout the season. Just loves the atmosphere, and also a wealth of knowledge and experience to help Jay Schreibman in this transition to GT3.
Yeah, he's just such a quality guy. So Oz has had a lot of accolades next to his name over the years. Won the Rolex 24 about 10 years ago, whatever it was. And yeah, I mean, it's great to see him still competing. He keeps himself super fit, and just a great calming influence on any amateur driver who's trying to learn the nuance of going pro racing.
2012 Daytona
2012 was a wild
champion.
time flies, yeah.
It does. Brazilian F3 champ in 1990, and won the Indy Lights Panamericana Championship in 1998, and that is the extent of my knowledge about Indy Lights Panamericana. I've exhausted it. All right, here's a driver returning. Good to have Andy Lee back. We've seen him alongside Elias Sabo over the years. That program came to a sudden halt midway through the year last year, but Andy and Slade Stewart, they've been driving together in Lamborghini Super Trofeo for quite a while now, and a natural progression for them up to GT3.
And that's the car that he actually started last year with
Right.
Elias Sabo. It was actually sold over to the group that he's with now. So he's familiar with the race car. He anticipated doing a full season. Then Elias had to step away from racing temporarily. We hope to see him back in our paddock in the future. But left Andy without a ride. He stayed busy in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, so he's not rusty in terms of seat time. But great to see him back with some GT3 machinery with an excellent group with Riley steering the ship there.
Foley has some work to do. Justin Rothberg was 5th of the 5 pro cars in Q1. And Robbie so far rising to the challenge, a 134.147, provisionally quickest here in segment 2.
Puts them top on average as well. So but I expect the others to start to hustle and maybe knock them off the top perch for now.
There's Thomas Merrill. Trace Lalu was in this car in the first segment. Gran Turismo, she's run that on the side of her car for a couple of years in different series. Always has a bright livery on the car as well. And you're not going to mistake this one for anything else, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a tall order. It's a big step for Teresa to get up to speed, but she's got a great teammate here in Thomas Merrill. He's much like Oz Negri, got a lot of experience that she can soak up.
Trans Am champ in 2022, Asian Le Mans Series champion in 2023. Worked as an instructor and driver coach since 2005, so quite right, brings quite a bit of life experience and driving experience to the table. A look here at Mikhail Grenier. This was the car that was quickest in the first segment with Mackay Stevens behind the wheel. Grenier still putting the car through its paces, 6th fastest in this segment, but hasn't really put in a representative lap time. This could just be about putting in, getting those tires in the right window, doing the right prep so that you can go for a push lap or two late in this session. Here's two cars on different programs, it would appear. Sargent appears to be pushing. I'm not sure that Jan Halen just ahead was until now. Sargent on the headlight flashers right away. It didn't slow him down at all. It says Kyle Washington, but that should be Tom Sargent in the car, and he's quickest here so far.
Yeah, and that's obviously the graphic is incorrect, as not Kyle Washington, is now Tom Sargent behind the wheel. So these times we're looking at on screen, the graphic you're looking at are for this session. That's not the average times that combined with driver 1 and driver 2.
Here comes Merrill, starting another lap. Will Bamber on track once again. It's interesting, he's sharing the track here this weekend, racing against Hampus Eriksson, who we talked about earlier. These two raced head-to-head with each other just last weekend in the Super Trofeo race at Sebring. 2 races there. They finished 1-2 in both of those races and find themselves on rival teams once again. In fact, this TR3 team that Bamber drives for is the same team he drives for in the Super Trofeo ranks, but much different car, much different challenge for him here this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of race fans may recognize the name Bamber. Yes, he is Earl Bamber, 2-time overall Le Mans winner. His brother, and has run race teams in conjunction with his brother over the years, EBM. But he can pedal a race car, that is for sure.
Runner-up in Super Trofeo a year ago, but the current championship leader through 2 races. As we look here at Foley, only down in 7th. Look how tight some of these gaps are. Dickinson quickest in the session, but only by 54 thousandths. Then it's 40 thousandths back to Grenier. A little bit of a further gap back to Merrill, but it tightens up once again after that.
But Grenier, in combination with Stevens' time, is actually overall pole right now.
Exactly right.
Times you're looking at on screen, and for this session only, we'll try and verbally update you with how they sit on the grid. So Grenier on pole overall and in pro. Thielert suddenly jumped up with a nice time, and putting that on top of Todd Coleman's run. Thielert's and company would be pole, pro-am, 2nd overall.
Board with the car that is quickest on aggregate, quickest in the first session. This is Mick Grenier, the Canadian. He's done a lot of his racing in Europe over the years. Got his season off to a great start as he jumps up to 2nd in the session. Won his Class 1 overall at the Bathurst 12-hour earlier this year. One of the crown jewels in global sports car racing. Great way to kick off a season.
It really is, and they're going to be so solid this year. They're, you know, just they got the chemistry that was immediate. They won the first race here to kick off the 2025 season. They worked to get the full season. For Mackay Stevens, he's returning to tracks that he's now got GT3 experience on, as well as his GT4 time. So that should just build their potential throughout this 26th season.
Now, Grenier is the quickest of the pros here in segment 2, as cemented, at least for now, JMF's claim on pole position. Interesting that 3 Pro-Am cars have jumped to the top in this session. Not surprising, though, when you look at the skill set of those involved.
Look how tight all the times are. You see Cam Lawrence down there in 15th. They're actually 2nd overall and 2nd in pro right now, combined with what Sedgwick did on his run. So these times are super tight in this session. Look at the gaps, just thousandths of a second between some of the positions there.
Aaron Thielert has said enough's enough. his job appears to be done, unless, yeah, it's got to be done. That would, though, provisionally be good enough to take the Pro-Am class pole.
They got a bit careful, though, because Hannafin has really been flying here, and they only sit about half a tenth behind overall. So if Hannafin can find a tenth of a second, that could jump him up to the pole here.
Speaking of, it's the 2021 Carrera Cup Great Britain runner-up here, Lorcan Hannafin, who's been plying his trade in GT racing for a number of years, told me he was looking for the next step in his career, trying to figure out where he could expand
There it
to.
is. That was enough.
Saw North America as an opportunity, and boy, oh boy, has it paid off here early on. Second fastest in the session, but that would be best good enough for the class pole at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now is Grenier with the fastest time in the session and overall for that team. Hannafin fastest in this session in Pro-Am, and that brings he and his teammate up to the pole position in Pro-Am.
Outstanding.
Oh, that's a little slip there. Just tried to ask for too much for the race car there on the entry to turn 3. He is pushing, pushing, pushing. Really impressive young man from the UK. His dad is from Ireland.
Lorcan calls Leeds home. Absolutely loving the American circuits. That's true of Frederick Schandorf as well. I asked him what he thought about Sonoma Raceway, and he said, I love it. Makes my mom a little bit nervous, though. But he said, yeah, these old school tracks, he's so excited to get to a couple he hadn't been to before, and he's putting in some great times. That was his best of the session a moment ago.
Yeah, Hannafin, despite that little bobble, still had a personal best first sector, just about a tenth of a second off Robbie Foley as the best sector one time in this session. So what could have been there? I mean, I felt that he lost at least a couple of tenths there with that little moment.
Here he comes. Did give up some time in sector 2. His final sector, though, could tell all. Pro-Am class car here that is third quickest in the session and would be second on the overall grid, the way that the times combine between himself and Jason Daskalos.
Start another fly here, just see if the tire pressures haven't exceeded the perfect spot and range, and if he's still got grip left, he's got some time on the board as Cameron Lawrence, after a really solid run. They're going to be super happy with that with Dollar Height Racing. That Ford has a lot of pace here this year with that Evo kit. Makes the car a lot more comfortable to drive, more downforce on the front end. Some kinematic suspension stuff been changed, new braking package, new wheel, giving the drivers a lot of stability that they look for.
Again, to reiterate, the times you see on the screen, those are the session times, not the combined times. So although Lawrence is 15th in the session, the car itself would line up second overall because of the work that Cameron Lawrence and his co-driver Alex Sedgwick did across the 30 combined minutes of qualifying here. There's Andy Lee. This car would start 15th provisionally.
Fast lap 34.4 here, so he's got a little bit of work to do if he's going to drag himself and the car up the grid a little bit.
Not many on flyers at the moment, but Zach Vanier just did his best first sector. Vanier in this session down in 16th, but that car on aggregate with the 6th best combined time, and he just did his best middle sector as well. So that's a car that could take a jump here in the final 38 seconds.
Yeah, and Halen, let's see what he can do, see if he can squeeze a little bit more pace out on this race car. I think it's going to time out where he may get one more crack at it. I think he's going to get by the alternate timing line before he runs out of time in this session.
I think you're right. It looked like he was laying back, cooling the tires a bit, prepping for this final push. And
nicely judged. There's the timing line, so he's starting a last lap fly here.
Vanier did have a decent lap, but it didn't change where they were sitting overall, still 6th. I think you're right, though, as the checkered flag waves. Halen might be the driver to watch. Belgian driver living in Florida now for a decade plus. Has become a go-to guy for a couple different Porsche teams here stateside. RS1 certainly one of them.
Still has so much passion for his racing. Wants to make it happen, keeps driving and pushing teams to give him an opportunity. If he's got the right partner, he can deliver.
2021 GT World Challenge America Pro-Am champion Jan Heylen. How did the sector times look? First sector, good but not great.
Yeah, about 4/10 off the best, still held by Robbie Foley in this session through sector 1 at a 49.61. That was a 50.01 through that first sector for Jan Heylen.
Doesn't need to find much. On aggregate, it would take just 59 thousandths of a second to jump another spot.
This is going to be key here. Yeah, fortunately that Porsche got out of the way. I was a bit concerned that he's going to get stymied.
Good sportsmanship, though, making sure the road was clear. Heylen's middle sector, how does that one look? 31 flat.
Not setting the times alight, that's for certain.
Bit of a surprise given the strength of the Porsches through the build-up to qualifying. And Heylen, no better than 10th in this segment, 7th in the combined standings for Jan Heylen and his co-driver, JP Martinez. That's Jason Daskalos. I think he just said the hard part's over. Now it's the easy part. Apparently 3 hours is easier than 15 minutes in qualifying, but hey, they've got the track position. Provisional pole in the Pro-Am class. We saw the smile on his face. Let's hear from him now. Jason's with Amanda.
Ryan, I'm pretty sure he's hugged everyone on this JMF team, including John Farah, but you came down from the top of that pit box with a fist pump for your co-driver and said the kid is fast. How pumped are you for this season, Jason?
Yeah, what a difference. The team is incredible. Danny, Richard, thank you to John for bringing me on and finding Lorcan. The kid is, I call him kid because he could be my kid. So he's awesome. He's great to work with, and I'm just thrilled to start the season on pole.
He's the one last person that you have to hug today.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Congratulations.
23 years old, Lorcan Hannafin. Big year this year for him. GT World Challenge Europe program with the Curiacos Blackthorn. That's in an Aston. He's got a European Le Mans Series program in a Ferrari. He's here in a Mercedes. He's just trying every GT3 brand he can get his hands on. But super excited about his prospects for 2026. We will show you now results from Q2. Again, these are averaged together with the best lap in the respective cars from Q1. So this again is the Q2 times. Sargent topped the charts by just over 1/10 of a second over Mick Grenier. Then it was Hannafin. Ryan Yardley, reigning Carrera Cup champion, looking quite strong. Thomas Merrill as well with the 5th fastest time. Riley Dickinson, who Yardley battled with in Carrera Cup last year, just behind. And Thielitz, Colin Brown, back in the championship full season for the first time in many years, but this time driving a Porsche for Kelly Moss. Will Bamber, Jan Heylen, Fred Schandorf through the top 11, then Foley and Ericsson. The BMWs just not quite on the ultimate pace this weekend. Celia Haug, Vanier, Lawrence, Lee, Negri, the 18 drivers that set times in Q2.
There's been some chatter about any BOP changes in terms of the technical specs of the cars being looked at following qualifying, when the series can really evaluate what everyone has exactly. So we'll see if there's any changes before race time today.
For now, the hills have gone quiet, but we're just a few hours away from the first race in this brand new format. I love the fact that qualifying still, both drivers have a part to play. When you put the times together like this, everyone feels like they're contributing to the starting position, and it does lead to, I think, some cars that could be a little bit out of position at times when the race gets started, and then conversely, once the driver changes happen, that should spice things up for us.
Yeah, as we said earlier, you can be out there and it's like, hey, you got 3/10 advantage, but it's like, hey, if you want to set up your friend who's about to jump in the race car, give them less of a task, keep pushing if you got some more time to find. So, you know, saving those tires is not so much a factor there with this form of qualifying.
Well, that will be fun to track all throughout the season. First qualifying session in the books. Q2 got underway just over 15 minutes ago, and it was now all the pros strapped aboard the Pro-Am cars, plus, as it turned out, the higher top-rated driver, I think, in all of the Pro Class cars as well, certainly as in the M car with Oz Negri climbing aboard. Speaking of Oz, he was quick to put that car through its paces, has a full season teammate this year, too, in the Pro Class car from AF Corsa. That can only help them in their progression. Mikael Grenier knew that his job was simply to put in a decent time. Mackay Stevens gave them some wiggle room to play with his strong lap in the first leg of qualifying, and Grenier did exactly that. Lorcan Hannafin starring, picking up where Jason Daskalos left off in Q1. They'll be the provisional pole sitters in the Pro-Am class pending post-qualifying tech. So with that, we have our starting grid, and now the teams just have a few hours to contemplate the challenge ahead, think through the different strategy permutations. In many respects, yes, it's similar regulations-wise to what we've done for the Indy 8 Hour for several years now, but never quite done anything like this here in GT World Challenge America. We're all going to be learning together.
Yeah, and I think certainly for some of the Pro-Am combinations, they'll be looking at some strategizing around, particularly if there's any yellows and taking advantage of that. Essentially, once we get into the race, just forecasting that this afternoon, you've got 50-minute maximum stint time for a driver, but you've got to do 75 minutes minimum drive time for the race, 180 minutes, so it's a cake that got to slice up. You're looking at 4 stints, potentially 3 pit stops, but you can move that around a little bit, and I think if there's any yellow and there's a lot of fuel saving, then it's all about how far can one of these cars, one of these manufacturers, if they have a fuel advantage in terms of their fuel efficiency, that could create an opening where it could be some strategy that will get you to victory lane.
We heard from Mackay Stevens after his session. They know now their car is on provisional pole, so let's hear from him again.
Well, I would say that feisty personality of the Mercedes reigned here supreme for qualifying. When you look at this new format, the 3-hour race that we're going to head into, how fortuitous for this Mercedes to be on pole?
Well, I mean, it's truly a testament, obviously, to the organization first. This beautiful machine that we have pulling in to join us, my better half and my teammate. But granted, the platform it's a tremendous platform. It does all things well when you treat it right, and we're just enjoying the relationship.
How do you guys build off each other, Mackay?
We're one and the same person, so it's quite easy. He's got maybe a few months and a year ahead of me, but at the same time, it's the fact that we both have a genuine amount of respect for one another, and we'll always put the other first if we can.
As I watched Mick Grenier get his helmet off, it looked like that Ford Mustang was coming for you guys. Is that the threat out there today?
Them and everybody, but also just the testament of the race itself. 3 hours, it'll be a new endeavor. We'll see what comes of it.
The sister car will also be on pole. Did you say anything to Daskalos?
Yeah. I mean, he was over the moon about things and how neat for him to join the organization and kick it off with a bang.
Did you get a hug?
I got plenty of hugs.
Well, as we make our way over to Mick Grenier, it is official. The JMF Mercedes will have the Rova Pole Award here today as we kick off this brand new format with a big hug from John Farah as well. And we were just talking about how well you and Mackay Stevens work together. He said this Mercedes had a feisty personality. How would you describe it?
I'm not sure what he means, but yeah, the car's been running well. We're building on last year, so it's nice that we kept the same group together. So I think we will have a good season, but we need to go lap by lap and try to score as many points as possible early in the season, which we didn't always do last year. So yeah, it's a good way to start this morning.
We'll see you this afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, they've had success here in the past. Race one a year ago, and they've got the best starting position you can ask for. First Rova Pole Award of this new format in 2026. So much excitement with the new race format, new teams, new drivers, really a lot of unknowns going into the opening race of the season. And that race comes your way with coverage beginning at 1:25 local time here in Northern California. Sonoma Raceway goes silent for the moment. Race one of 2026, though, comes your way this afternoon. Hope you join us for that. See you then.